Hello, everybody. Welcome to Toon Talk 2.0. As always, I'm your other host, Jake, and your main host, Virus, and we are joined by the multi-talented, multi-instrumental musical
We really
genius,
make you
Papa D.
practice a whole week. You cannot say multi-instrumentalist. You can't do that, fucking
Well,
American.
that's what I did. No, I almost said multi-instrumentalist, but I meant to say multi-instrumental, and I got. Since when are we
Yeah.
professional?
Since always, I mean,
Since
your
when do
your
we
mama loves
practice?
me. Oh well, of course I practice every day. I don't speak your fucking language, you fucking gringo. But I miss you. How are you, Jake?
I'm doing good, but yeah, there we go.
So you're
Okay.
distracted. Why are you doing this to our people and our guests
No,
today?
I
Come on,
had.
focus, Jake. Okay, let's do this. Take two. Can you do that for us? Can you look at the fucking camera and start again?
Will you stop sassing me?
Well, remember last episode you were on my fucking neck the whole fucking show? It's called Payback, baby. Hello, everyone. My name is Virus Vox. Welcome to Toon Talk 2.0. We have an amazing guest today. We have a lot of picking on Jake Day. Yes, that's what we're gonna name this show. Is how we fuck
Pick,
with Jake
picking,
Head.
picking on Jake with Papa D.
Yeah, with Pappa D, of course. Welcome, Pappa D. How are you, man?
I'm good. I don't know if I want to be a part of the whole, picking Jake kind of situation. I don't know what kind of
Exactly,
history you guys have, but Jake's
because
been good to me,
because
so
he's a
You
real friend.
guys, do you guys want me to leave and you guys want to have a room together?
You know what?
Do you need that?
You
I'm
know
just
what?
saying.
Maybe, maybe.
Well, don't worry, Papa D. Jake and me, we are great friends and partners in business. Let's be clear, and we just speak to each other all the time. There's no
That's
show
amazing.
without messing with each other,
Oh,
and
that's
obviously, I
great.
always win. But what are we gonna
Do
do?
you though?
Ah, I don't know. Shut the fuck up. So how are you, Papa D? What's new with your life? Please tell our audience a little bit about you, because we know you, but we want the audience to know more about yourself.
It's good. It's been going good. I've been spending most of the time in the house now in my studio. Coming back from a tour that I was around the world for the first time, having the chance to tour Australia and New Zealand and French Polynesia and Hawaii, Mexico. We just went to that part of the world that I've never been before, and it was the first professional gig that I've got in that scale. And I've just returned back here, and I've been enjoying now over a month back in California, mainly recording, um, doing some session work, doing some gigs, and getting ready to hit the road again in July for another 3.5 months. So I'm currently home. It's a very beautiful space that I've built here with my piano. As you guys can see, the piano is back here, and it's a beautiful baby grand that I have, and I do most of my recording and my composing and songwriting here in the studio. So it's been
That's
good.
great.
I cannot complain.
Let's start from the beginning. I want to do something different because I know how special and unique talent you are. So, uh, tell us about where you're from. Let's start from when you're from, when you're born,
I'm
mom,
from
dad.
I'm from Greece originally, and I was born there, and I was raised there. I went to school there, college eventually, and at around 21 years old, I got a scholarship to move out here to America, to Boston specifically, and I went to Berkeley College of Music in Boston for further studies, and
And but allow me to go back. How was your childhood in Greece? Because to understand a person with your talent and the way that you perform, I think that we need to go to the roots. And allow me and forgive me if I go to my journalist times, but it's really rare that we have a person such with so many talents. And I really want the audience to, besides the jokes and besides the virus boss, Miss and Jake, I want people to get to know you. deep so they can understand what you do as a musician, as a performer. So how was your childhood? What? Let's go back in the days before it was Pappa D. How was your
Yeah.
childhood in Greece?
Thank you, first of all. I really appreciate that. Um, I would say that uh, music was definitely all around the whole time. Um, Funny enough, I even asked my mom, I was like, when you were like pregnant in me and stuff, like, were you like playing any music, or did you have like music playing in the background? Were you singing to me? And she said that she was like playing opera. She was just playing opera and Italian music and Greek music. And um, so th I feel the music was around since, day one, the belly days. But I don't come from a musical family, quote unquote, like a family of musicians. None in my family was a professional musician. There was music though, and they were musically inclined, and they loved music. And my grandpa would sing, and my grandma would sing, and my mom would sing, and my uncle was a guitar player. So there was just music all around, and I always remember having music on the radio. And um, funny enough, I didn't start music until, I was considered older for, classical music standards. I started when I was about, 11, 12 years old, with the piano. And a couple of years later, I realized I could also sing, and I started writing my first songs. So, everything started happening little by little. But
And allow me, Papa, what you wanted to be before, because everyone we have different dreams, right? And illusions before finding our true calling. What you wanted to be before discovering, like this bridge between you born till 11 years old. What was your dream? What you wanted to be when you grew up?
well, I think if I tell you the funny story of how I even got started with the piano, it will explain a little bit what I wanted
Yeah,
to be at that
please.
time. So I I would go with my mom to the hairdresser, and my mom, she would get her hair done, and I would just hang there, just biding my time. I mean, I was like 9, 10 years old. She would just take me with her, and I would always have something in my hands. I would just play with clay and just build little things, and I was working my hands the whole time, and I had really good flexibility in my fingers, and the hairdresser, that would cut my mom's hair, she was the wife of one of the most prestigious pianists in Greece and in the Balkans, and this guy happened to be our director in the music school of that I grew up, and she would see me once, she would see me twice, and she says at some point to my mom, "Hey, this kid, like his fingers, they're just working and they're flexible. Like, why don't you start him on the piano? Like, have you considered that?" And my mom started me, and the rest is history. So, well, I'm saying this, why I'm saying this, because I just like building things, and I always thought I was gonna, be like an engineer, or like
There
a
you go.
mechanic and stuff, like,
Uh,
but that was when I was a kid, and I think the craziest realization to me now, even, you know 20 years later, because I'm 28, I just turned 28. Even 28 years later, I realized that I always loved to do artistic stuff in one way or another. So when I would build something, I wouldn't like look at the instructions. Oh, look how to build a house. I would just be like, oh, how can I build it on my own? And oh, what if this thing went there? So I was always curious and creative. And I think once I found music and fell in love with it, then I just found my medium to be able to express
so
myself in the way that I
so
want.
you always being creative, obviously, and at this moment is that you use, like you say, that medium through music, right? I mean, if you were always fiddling with the fingers, right, and obviously your fingers were more developed than a normal kid. So then you start taking piano classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
what was your motivation? Because we all have the media motivation, right? The dream motivation and the musical motivation. What was that? What was the first song that you learned? And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to guide everyone to the Pappa D experience, so they can, when we got to the point of what you're doing now. Because
No, no, it's okay, of course.
I've been, thanks to Jake, obviously we have friends in commons, right? Danny's a friend in common, and and going through the navigation of your life, I found really interesting because as an immigrant like myself, we live different experiences before we come to the normal ABC of America. So now you're there, right? You're 11 years old. The hairdresser that happens to be the director tell your mom you gotta come here and you gotta take classes. So you're sitting in front of the piano. What is going on in that 11 years old Papa D uh, life in the brain?
That's crazy, man. Well, I do remember. I remember my teacher, uh, Miss Maria. Maria Emonidu, that was her name, and she was like Eastern European and also an immigrant in Greece, but grew up in Greece, was raised in Greece, learned how to talk the language, and we started. And um, we actually started. My sister started first. My sister is a year younger than me, and she started, and she she was practicing and everything and picking it up. But I was definitely the more musically inclined of the family. My sister was very hardworking and she loved to play. But when I started, I, as far as the piano, not that my memories are vague, but I do remember, um, I do remember playing some stuff that I didn't necessarily enjoy that much. I do remember the first song I played that I really enjoyed though, which was a Mendelssohn piece, Songs Without Words, and that was, I think, the first recital I did that year when I was 11, 12 years old. And I played that in front of people. I was nervous as shit, and I think it went okay. It went pretty okay because I really liked that song. But at that time, I didn't realize that I was I was evolving so much faster around the stuff that I really like to play. So, and I didn't want it to feel like a chore, but I also didn't know what I wanted from music. So it was a very transforming period. The thing that I do remember though was starting, when you start the piano lessons, you start the theory, you start the harmony, and you start like doing all these little things. And for my age, they would have to put me, with the kids, like with the 5 year olds, and I would have to like
Yeah,
so the teacher that I had, which I love to this day, we still talk, and she's very proud of me and stuff. We're still talking, and she she had my mom say, "Hey, maybe we're gonna start him with the older kids, his age, and yeah, they're more advanced, but we give him a chance, and I can help as much as I want, whatever you guys need." So I skipped like 5 or 6 levels and started with the kids of my age, and within a couple months, um, I was up to date. I didn't have to. She didn't have to come to the house, and
yeah.
I caught up basically, and I always think about it. This thought in my mind, even speaking about the journey and the stuff that we're going to discuss, further along the podcast. But funny enough, it was really hard for me the first couple months, to skip all those levels and um, get on board with the rest of the kids. But the funny thing is that from our whole class of 10 people at the time, nobody became a musician. Nobody nobody pursued a musical career the way I did. So it was definitely a very very grounding feeling for me to realize that this little hardness that and difficulty that I had during that time to kind of
Make you stronger, make you
yeah.
stronger and more decided. What kind of music was happening outside the classes? I mean, you go to your house. Of course, you were going to school. what music were it was surrounding you, because I understand that you have a eclectic musical mind, right? So what kind of music was around you in this 12 years old, this kid that just jumped from the starting older for people that are doing classical, right? And then jump. What was going on after the classes? What kind of music was surrounding your taste in the house, in parties, school, mom playing, grandpa playing a record? What kind of music was around you?
Wow, we're going deep. I'm really loving this, by the way, you know? Thank you.
Virus likes to go deep.
I really appreciate that. Um, well, there was a lot of music around constantly, and as you asked me that question now, and I'm going in my mind back in the memory lane, the things that jump up come from different categories and places in my life, because I was never really fond of the popular music, or the music of the time. I always seem to go back, and the music that was in the house back in the day was like older music from the grandparents, um, church music sometimes, when we would go to church on Sundays, and um, my grandpa would
And you
also
mean
sing in church, like like Greek
Christian,
Orthodox.
Catholic Church, Orthodox? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when I was leaving the school, we would have opera and we would have classical music, and I wouldn't hear so much of a style as of instrument. So I was getting familiar with the instruments. I would hear this instrument blowing this single note melody, and I wouldn't know what it was. And I was like, oh, I think that's a trumpet. And that's an oboe, and that's a cello, or like violin, or guitar, and sometimes peek my ear to the door at the school and like listen to the older kids, just playing and actually playing pieces. And I was like, this is cool. Why am I playing all this lame shit, and all these
Yeah.
students, they're just playing such incredible stuff. So I was I was I was curious, I was eager, and I was also um impatient. I wanted to learn. I wanted to get
And more
better.
because they jump you from a start to your age, so you were eager and you understand that pattern, right? So now you want more, obviously, because you're
Yeah, I
accomplishing, you want more. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was loving the sound. I was just I knew that I might not know exactly what I wanted to do, but I would know when I see it or when I hear it. So it was very, very felt based for me, and that's kind of how it was around the music school. Now around the school, you're like 10 years old. You're not even like in middle school. There's stuff around, and but I don't really have any recollection of that. I do remember that once I started playing music, they were casting for the music's play that year at the school, and I just bought a little harmonica, found a little harmonica we had on the house. I don't really remember, and I remember that year the pianist's spot was covered by somebody that was better than me. So I was like, I'm just gonna play harmonica. And I so I was interested in all
Do
those
you
things.
remember what play it was?
No, nothing fancy, man. It was just
Uh,
definitely it was. I think it was a collection of songs that
yeah.
the teachers chose, and we got to write, and they got to write the songs, and we got to uh, those who wanted to sing, those who wanted to play, um, and yeah, that's wow. I'm really
So
back there
you're
right now.
now I'm gonna take you way deeper, my friend. So now you're 12 years old. We understand that an artist, I don't know if you know, but I've been a recording artist since I'm 12, right? You become really in touch with your emotions, right? So between 12 and probably 15, obviously the first love came. And don't tell me was the piano, probably was somebody, right? And so why don't you take us there? The first love, the first time that Papa D was like, because as an artist, it's an evolution when you start getting to those emotions different. That is a guy playing football or soccer, right?
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
feeling are different. Do you remember your first love?
I do. I
There
do.
you go.
I do. I think I was 6 or 7 years old,
Oh,
and
so we're gonna go back to there. You're worse than me. Keep going.
yeah, yeah. It's not even, I think, um, that was the time when I thought I developed, feelings or whatever before I even knew what it was. But I just thought she was sweet and cute. And funny enough, at the time, my dad had a very old car that he would take us to school. Kozani, the place that I come from, is cold, and uh, we would try to get warm in the morning and go to school, and the radio would play the same set every day, 7:45 to like 8:15, that he would drop us to school, would play the same songs. And there was this song that was playing by this Greek artist that for a 6-year-old is kind of inappropriate, I mean, at that time I didn't know what I was listening to, but it was just I mean, it's still in a very romantic way. Like when I recite it now to myself, if I try to translate it to you, it sounds, like, let me like caress your hair, and but and it's like I want to burn from your love and stuff like that. I'm doing like the exact translation. It's way
Yeah,
more
yeah.
poetic in Greek, but I heard that freaking song, man, so many times that I wrote it down, 6 years old, in a piece of paper, and found the courage somehow one day to bring it to school and try to sneak it in at her desk. And my teacher found it before I gave it to the girl, and she took it, and she was like, "Dimitri, come here." And she scolded me. I mean, she didn't detain me or anything. She thought it was very sweet, but she's like,
You were 6 years
"You're a
old.
little young for that." And uh,
That's amazing.
the
Uh,
so she never got it. She never found out. It's funny.
do you
But
remember her name?
Effie, Effie
Effie.
Papuzi. Yeah, I do
There you
remember
go.
her
And you
name.
know everything. So, thank you for that. You mentioned your dad.
So
You
so
mentioned your
so
dad. Go ahead.
so Effie, if you're watching,
One
Hey,
day,
you,
one day, one day. That would be crazy, man. I think I haven't spoken to her in 8 or 10 years.
well, if it does
That's kind of
happen,
that's
we've
crazy.
got
lovely.
it. If it does happen, we've recorded it. So
So, you mentioned your dad and this drives in the morning to school. What your dad does for a living back in the day? What he was
My d
doing?
my dad, he's still doing that. It's a family business from my grandpa in our hometown, and has a very small clothing store. But
Nice.
also my town is very small. So it's a good business. It's very local, very family owned, and he's still running it. And it's a family like clothing store with men's clothing. And later he would, as I was around the time I would start with music, he would take me always to the factories, and get supplies. And as I was getting older, I would be the model, so he'd be like, "Oh, why don't you try these, and let's see how it looks in you." So I would be
But
wearing
that's
the
where the
stuff that
fashion comes. That's where the fashion looks come, right?
he
You see,
definitely he taught me well. He definitely taught me well. I have no complaints about that.
your mom was working with him, or she was just taking care of the
My
house.
No, my mom was a banker. So she was
Oh,
working in the bank, and she still does that, and she's doing it very well.
that's
So,
good.
but she like, I'm more on my mom's side, on the on the intensity of shopping, as you can see back here,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
and um and
But the
in
fashion
the
remains, right? You see, the fashion remains, and I know it's funny when I start doing these kind of intimate interviews, people don't understand where we are. But now with this little space, we know that you're sensitive, that you're a family-oriented man, that music is compound to your family, and we understand the fashion more because that was business, right? And now we know where the path to Dimitri to become Pappa D, right, is started. So let's go back to your first recital. After that recital, um, what happened? What is the process between that 11 years old to getting a scholarship? What happened? You keep playing, you start doing other instruments. What was your music instinct back then?
Yeah. Well, that was a heck of a journey, I gotta tell you that. But I do remember keep on playing the piano, taking classes, and getting better at theory. And the school, the music school now, you're doing the whole program in Greece. It's very deep and detailed. Um, it's very much hands-on. You do history, you do arranging, you do all of those things that people go and do in the university. Later on, we were doing 5, 6 years prior to that. So I kept doing that, and I kept getting better, and I kept practicing. And we had a piano in the house, and and around that same time, if not a little earlier, before I even started uh, playing the piano, I do have to mention that because for me it was very important to the songwriting process, the process of writing and song, and and um, and I want to address that a little bit because I would remember my grandpa and being in the village and just writing little rhymes in Greek of just our favorite restaurant, or the cows and the chickens that we would have outside our house, in the yard, in the fields. So I would just write little silly things. I just didn't know anything about music to put them together and create a song. And this is very personal stuff for me. I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody. Um,
Thank you for
but
doing that. You know that's every time I do an interview, that's the thing that I listen the most. I never told that to anybody, and I really love it. Thank you for trusting us. So you were writing here and there, right, to your
mhm.
grandfather, right, and playing with him. When you actually start playing, what was the first song you write about? Now that you have the conscience of, oh, this is music, right? What was that first experience of or writing your first song?
um, well, I think it's definitely been a couple years past that whole musical process before I even started thinking of merging these two things together. I I was writing at the village and in my hometown, and then eventually when I went to to the uh, is it middle school or whatever that is, when you go like,
Yeah.
12, 13 years old. I was getting bored in class, and I was sitting all the way to the back, and I was just writing, and things just were happening, and I was working on my English really well as well. So after that point, pretty much every song I've written since then, it's in English. So
Okay.
15 years of writing so far, everything is in English. But I would just write, but never really thought of putting them together. I would just write more, think about it as a poem, they just happen to rhyme.
Yeah.
And then on the piano side, how it was working for me was that I I was a little impatient with the songs, or if I didn't like the song, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm just gonna change it. And uh at that time, it seemed impatient, but I was actually just improvising and being creative without even knowing it at the time. So I would just take a song, and uh, I would just elongate it there, or stretch it out, or add some notes that weren't there. And then slowly, slowly, I would start the more knowledge I would obtain. Um, like, what is this chord, and what is this harmony, and what is this melody, and what keys shall I press, then it would start falling into place for me to be able to start implementing that in the songs that I was improvising and in the songs that I eventually started writing. But the idea of songwriting, like sitting and writing a song, didn't really start until I I started making some friends, and I picked up the guitar, and I started getting into bands and duos, and that's how it started. That's how the
But
whole game
so
changed for me.
when was it? What age you were when you were in your first band?
Probably 13, 14 years old.
Do you remember the name of the band?
Is the Plun. So Is the
Is the
Plun was the name of the band. The Plun in Greek means comes from Dio, dos, double. So Is the Plun, double, two, like two people. If I can
the
explain
duet
it,
will be the translation. Yeah.
the duet basically, and it was me and a friend that I met through some common acquaintances, and we started writing. He was a classical guitar player from the school, and I was a pianist, but I never thought that, oh, I'm going to play piano in a band.
Yeah.
I just realized I can also sing. I had some teachers that were helping me, and finding the notes and finding the notes on the staff, and slowly, little by little, we started writing some songs together and doing some concerts. And I learned a little bit of guitar just to be able to, get through the gig and
Do
play.
you have any? Did you have any idol in that precise moment? Like, did you wanted to be like somebody? Because now we understand that the classical piano is on the side, right? And now you're grabbing the guitar because you want to feel the power of the band being on the front. Do you have an
Hmm.
idol back then, that somebody that you looked up to from Greek or from the States or from anywhere in the world?
Well, that was probably the first time that I was starting to get introduced a little bit to Greek artists at the time, and in America, that would be kind of like um, the folk artists, the contemporary, maybe even the country artists. Maybe Jake can correct me about that. But the music, uh,
Yes, Jake, we
because
think that you're a hillbilly. Keep going, Papa.
Hey, I'll tell
no, no,
you
no, no.
what, boy. You can talk all you want about me, but you make fun of my country songs. I don't know. I'm not a big country fan.
He's,
I like some
but
No, no,
country.
no.
but
No, let me elaborate, okay? Because what I mean by but by the folk American music, if we consider, the folk music
yeah,
of Greece, is music that goes back to the same time we had the blues here, and later jazz and all this stuff. And the equivalent of that around that time was these songs. And then we have another, you know 150, 200 years prior of that, of the traditional music, which is like the
yeah,
the folk to the bottom of it, if I can describe it properly. I know I'm doing a
yeah.
very poor job here, but we had
No, you're doing
we
fine.
had let's just say, the artists of the 60s, and the artists of the 70s, and the early 2000s, because I was born in 1996. So even artists at that time, they were still, 10, 15 years around, and I started listening to them and started learning some of their songs. And so it was very raw at that time. I didn't have direct inspirations, but at the same time, when when your musical knowledge is still developing, I feel also any kind of any kind of inspiration you're having at that time is very raw. It's
Yeah,
very immature. So you listen to a song, and then you say, I'm going to write a song. That song you're going to write is pretty much going to
it's
be the
gonna sound
same thing
similar.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, like, if not the same. So it was a very subconscious back and forth process, because now I'm very intentional with what I
I
do, but
understand what you're
back
saying.
then.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I understand what you're saying. Sadly to say, I'm so much older than you, because when you were 4 years old, I released my fourth album in Mexico, and it was my first independent with a band.
That's
And
amazing.
I know what you're saying, because till the day that album, it was released in 2001. Then we tried to upload it, and Spotify didn't let me do it because it sounds really similar to Blink 182. And I wrote it 4 years before, right? But that movement of the happy punk was happening around the States and Europe, right? And I was so influenced by that that it sounds similar. Even I never like happy punk. I don't like the genre, right? But I understand what you're saying. But damn, you're young, and damn, I'm old. But let's keep going. So
Wow.
you you start taking the guitar. What happened after that? You jump from one band to another. Did you guys have any professional interests, any offers? Well, tell us that story from the first
I,
band
I
on.
so I started taking guitar lessons, and I would go to the local guitar teacher, and I was taking piano too, or I may have stopped around that time because I did it for, you know, 2 3 years, and then I stopped taking lessons, but I never really stopped playing the piano. I just switched to the guitar and I started taking the lessons, and he'd have a back room. He had a guitar store in a back room, and I would go to the back room and tune my guitar and get ready. He would come whenever he would come, and he would smoke in the class. This was like early 2000s in Greece. You know what I mean? It's just, it's
It was
it
different.
was yeah, it was different, and that was I have good memories though, and he played me uh one time, um Soldier of Fortune by Deep Purple, and it's with David Coverdale singing, and I knew that song. I knew that song because my uncle was one of the music influences that you were asking me before, that I forgot to mention, that he was the rocker of the family. So he was the one that introduced me to, you know, Metallica and Def Leppard and Iron Maiden and the heavier stuff too. Like later, I wasn't ready for the heavier stuff, but from, the Doors to Zeppelin to all that kind of stuff. And he introduced me to Deep Purple too, and I knew Soldier of Fortune. And he he started playing that song, and I started singing, and he's like, "Man, you got a voice, brother." That's what he told me. He said, "Just keep singing." And I got so excited by that I was obsessed with that. I was focusing so much more on my voice, and I didn't really need to take guitar lessons from him in that sense. He was like a shredder, and I just wanted to accompany myself. I never wanted to be a soloist on the guitar. I just wanted an instrument that I could sit and write my songs, and that's kind of how it started. So with his push and the guitar and the piano and the music in the family, everything kind of kept pushing me to be musically involved since then, pretty much nonstop until today. So it never stopped. It was just changing forms, and with my curiosity, I was always interested about different things, and everything was putting me in the right place at the right time. But as far as bands, uh, the duo recruited eventually a drummer, which was a friend of my friend, and which
But
is
it's not
one
a
of my,
duo anymore.
yeah, and that's one of my closest friends. He's doing excellent in Germany right now, and we keep working, we keep talking daily. He visited me out here in California, and we grew out to be brothers, and we maintained that relationship, and I love him to death, and his name is George, and he could be listening. So
There you
uh
go.
so George
So,
George
George,
George my
thank you for making the duo a trio, right? Thank you for
yeah,
doing that.
and
And
somewhere along those lines, yeah, we found the fourth player, the guitar player, the lead guitar player, which actually would come and watch the older bands rehearse. And by that time, we are like 14, 15 years old, and I've been in I've been in different bands with Timmy, the other guy from the duo. There's a lot of like back and forth, and I don't know if we have like a lot of time ahead of us for me to go through everything, but we we're having all these different bands, and we would do local festivals in my city, um, and I would write some stuff for that. We would mainly play, Three Doors Down and Green Day and some Greek tunes, and I was,
There you go.
I was just going with it. I had my Rolling Stone t-shirt, and I was vibing, thinking I was cool, but
I'm pretty
it's
sure you were.
I was gonna
That's
nah.
say,
fantastic.
I think you probably look pretty fucking cool. I'm sorry, I chuckle. I have to laugh because you mentioned your uncle was the rock influence, and I'm like, it's always the uncles. It's always the uncles because
Yeah,
I'm
my
the rocker for my nephews. I'm the one who's
that's
introducing them to all the heavy stuff, and they're like, the older one's ready for it, the younger one's not ready yet.
Yeah, for me, it was the first introduction to not kids stuff, right? Because I recorded my first album when I was 12, and I wasn't ready, Papa D. I wasn't ready. I was just there because I was lucky to know that my best friend was the son of the director of BMG Ariola. So he wanted to
wow.
make a band. So I remember, and I shared this before, I was playing Mario Brothers, and he told me, "You want to make a band?" And I said, "Sure. What I have to do? Nothing. Okay." And that's how I started in music. I never had the intention. I wanted to be a professional football player or basketball player. That was my mind, right? I always wanted to do
Wow.
that. But let's get back to you. So now you're rocking with the band. Now you're doing a four-piece duet, right? Because it's called duo, right? And you're moving there. Did you guys record it? Something back in that day?
Yeah, so that was the first serious band I had, and we stayed together for a little over 3 years, and by the time that thing was over, I was officially in the next phase of my life. But this phase, the band phase, nonetheless, was a very deep experience for me. That was basically my entire high school, and it was a very, very, very uh meaningful experience. It was like a school. It was like I was going to school, and we were serious about it since day one. We were called Gray Theory, and we looked up the name and licensed the name in Greece, and we started. How we came together is that I started messaging and asking everybody, needing people to come and record a song that I wanted to submit for a local competition. And my drummer, George, my brother and drummer, actually went back probably thousands of messages on Messenger, through Facebook, and tracked the first message. And he sent me a screenshot the other day, and he was saying that I messaged him and said, no, he messaged me and said, hey, you want to put a band together? And I messaged him, sure, but I want help to record my stuff for the record label. Because
Yeah.
an hour away from my hometown was the semi-capital, because Greece is probably one of the only countries in Europe that has a semi-capital. And
Yeah.
I was taking the bus by myself as a 14-year-old and going to that city and knocking on doors and thinking that I'm going to go and everybody's going to be excited to record my stuff, not even knowing me. It was a lot of like realizations, but I ended up making a couple of demos there. So I wanted to move out even before high school to a bigger city and record and do music. And George and I got together, and the band started, and we submitted for that competition. We did okay, I think we were in the top 10, and that was a national competition. So we started already performing. And for a band of 16-year-olds at the time, and for a place like Kozani, which is 30,000 people, and everybody knows everybody, and there's like 4 bars and 2 restaurants. You know, we did, we did okay. We started, we got on the radio, and we did like radio features, and they would play our songs, and we played live on the radio. And then we went to the local uh, TV station, and we did like a special for like a gathering. Everybody was like dancing, and they had tables, they were eating, and we would play for like an hour and a half on television. So, I mean, for our age, and everything,
That was fantastic. It was a
everything
great
was
opportunity.
everything was exciting. Yeah. And then we discovered the a very good big studio in Thessaloniki, the semi capital, and we went there to record professionally, basically the next 2 songs. Um,
At
and
that point, you are paying for the demos, right?
we're paying for the demos. We met this bass player, our guitar
How
player,
you play for
Thomas.
the demos?
What's
Do
that?
you what? How you play for how you pay for the demos? Did you work? Did you have the family? Because those
Well,
stories are really important for the development of an artist.
I think we all chipped in a little bit of money and rehearsed our butts because our drummer had a very small basement and no microphones. And I just remember us yelling, because it was me and the bass player. We would both sing, and I would play guitar and sing, and we had a lead guitar player and a drummer. And I would just remember us yelling to try to get the notes on top of drums and guitars,
Oh,
and we rehearsed our butts and went in and recorded everything in 5 hours. And with mixing and mastering, I think at that time we paid about 120 euros, which is like
yeah,
200 bucks for the day and a half, plus the mixing, plus the mastering, which was a whole package. And we found out that studio from our guitar player, Thomas, which I also ended up developing a huge relationship throughout the years. And um, we we went to Berkeley together and moved out to LA together. Like this is like stuff that goes, 10, 12, 13 years of more than half of my life knowing these people and have been
that's
working
amazing.
with them. And and we started like that, and he found out the studio from a very, very famous guitar player who is from Greece actually, and did a masterclass in Thessaloniki, Gus G. You might know him from like the rock scene, and he was the last guitar player of Ozzy Osbourne, you
Yeah.
know. So, and he had a band, Firewind. Anyway, long story short, all of that stuff. He found the studio, and we went there and recorded the demos, and then developed a beautiful relationship with them for the next year and a half. And yeah, man, you took me back 11 years right now.
Oh,
This is
so that's amazing, man. We're getting to
this is
know the
crazy.
real. Yeah. So now the band is over. What happened? Because at that point you are 17,
Yeah, well,
six.
the band had another couple really, really good years, because after that we we submitted for School Wave, which is the a big event and a big uh, a, teenagers competition, basically, that you audition, you send a demo, and we send those songs that were recorded in Thessaloniki, and they take you to Athens, and you audition in front of a committee of really high-end musicians of the industry in Greece, and we got to perform in a beautiful, huge stage in a amphitheater, basically in an open festival space for thousands of people while we finished high school. So we finished high school, and that summer we performed, and that was the peak of the band, basically. And after that, starting our studies, everybody, we try to keep working on it, and had to go every week back and forth and do the rehearsals. And uh, that was the first very pivotal point of my life, and eventually how the band fell through, and how I started to discover what I basically do to this day. The direction stylistically and musically, and as an entity, as an artist, I started the moment that this band was over, I started going towards the direction I am today.
So you are 17, 18. The band is over. That's when you get your scholarship.
No. So 18, 19 years old, that's around the time that we started studying in the other city, all of us except the guitar player, and
Hmm.
we would have to take the bus
Commute. Yeah.
every weekend, take the bus 2 hours, go stay the weekend back home, do rehearsals. And I don't think that was the reason that the band fell through. I think that my love for the piano started to come back. And I can tell you exactly how that happened, because I remember it very, very vividly. first of all, the university had incredible level of pianists. You know what I mean? Everybody, imagine the music school as a teenager. Now you're at a university and everybody's playing their whole lives. They're competing. You have opera singers, you have conductors, you have composers, you have everything you want. And here I am from a small town, just there trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And it started being around me. And I do remember one day finding um, in the library the real book, you know, and he had the jazz real book, and he had inside, Afro Blue, and he had, you know, um, Summertime, and all of those little tunes, and I started just kind of messing with it, and I was like, "What? Wow, what is that? What is that chord?" Looking up the chords, playing it, and it's just funny because for that year and a half, I would just play those songs, and I would play them like they were classical pieces.
Wow.
No swing, no 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 feel of any jazz vocabulary. I would just learn, oh, what does a D minor 7 flat 5 mean, or like a major chord, a minor. I knew these things already, but the they had their index, and I would just learn it with the index. And that was the time that I kept coming back and forth, and I started kind of I started outgrowing the band, or the band
Of course.
I was being outgrown. Like I feel it was going to a heavier direction, and
They were
voc
just a split difference, right? They just
yeah,
take different
yeah,
directions.
yeah, in a sense that, like the music was going in a way where, my voice was not uh going in that way. I wasn't really coming from that, classical uh heavy duty singing, or more metal or heavier stuff. I wasn't really vibing with that direction, and I had to like make a choice in the instrument. Like, if I wanted to be a guitar player, am I going to be a pianist? Am I going to be a singer? And I realized that all I wanted to do was just create, compose, write, and perform my songs. Now, would I perform the song on the guitar? That's fine. If that's what makes me a guitar player. Would I perform my song on the piano, or sing it, or write it for a film, or whatever I would do? I I would just create, and that was the most important thing for me. And that was around the time that we
And
parted ways.
we're talking about 2015, 2014. So the rock was kind of dying, right? But it was evolving to a really deep, heavy sound in Europe and disappearing in America. And that time, that was like the end of I mean, grunge already passed, right? Now the rock is totally lost in America in 2015. We just have Metallica over here, right? And Game Over, and the rest was commercial. But in Europe, it was all the heavy bands because they were doing that. So now you're playing solo, discovering your own path. That's when you got the scholarship to come to America?
Yeah. So I
Tell us
feel,
about that transition because it's
yeah,
hard.
yeah, no, because I feel, I mean, if if we want to do this right, we're going to do this right. Uh, but I I feel I feel that was the period that it was my quote unquote golden years, where I wrote my best work, where I was carefree. I didn't have to work. I was living an hour away from my home, and my sister moved in with me. I had food. I had my piano. I was away from home for the first time. I was influenced by all the stuff, the city. I was just living it by myself. I was excited by everything and by everybody, and I was falling in love every day, and I
I
was
was
just
gonna ask you, what about
I
love? Love in that time.
well, I was just getting excited about all of those all of those things, and all the things that were coming my way, and I was just it was just a good time to be a student living in Greece, because it was a bubble, and I don't say that in a bad way. It was a safe bubble that allowed
Yeah.
me to create and develop in my pace, in my with my intensity, with my sense of music, without having a scholarship, without being in America, without having to worry about rent, and without, it was just pure. It was
Yeah.
virgin. And this is why these years were so important to me. 2015 to 2018. So these 2 years, I'm not in this band anymore. I started I started doing other stuff along with music. I started I started I started swing dancing, and I started the trumpet, because that's when
Nice.
I discovered Chet Baker and Miles Davis, and that's kind of when I discovered that, wow, this is jazz. What does that even mean? And I think discovering these two artists in combination with dancing, it just changed completely the way I started playing the piano, because the songs now all of a sudden start swinging, and they're not played like classical and whatever. So I'm explaining to you all these things, and I know I'm kind of like jumping from here and there, but there's no way for me to separate them for you, because they all happened at the same time, and all this mush potato started developing this artist, which at the time my name was James Allen, which that was an artist name that I came up with. And James, I know it's kind of stupid, it doesn't make sense, but James or Jim, it's the name of Dimitri when they moved to America.
Okay.
So supposedly, you know how like Yanis, you move to
Yeah.
America and you become John, or Yorgos,
John.
George. Um, Dimitri, or it becomes Jim or James, which I never understand to this day, but I just came up with that name, James Allen. And I had a little fling at the time, and her last name was Allen, Sabrina Allen, and I kind of I
So
kind
you
of
broke up with her, but you keep the last name.
yeah. So we kept a friendly relationship, and she called me one day, and it was like, hey, like, we're friends now. I started swing dancing. You want to come with me? And I went, and I fell in love with it. So everything everything I I I didn't think that, oh, I was going to be in bands, or I was going to do shows, or I was going to go to Berkeley. I only knew I wanted to listen to music like a maniac, write songs like crazy, perfect my English. I was reading every day for hours. Every night I would just read and read and read and read all the poets, and read, all the songwriters, Cohen, um, Tom Waits, Nick Cave, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan. I would just read anything I could get my hands on. I would just read their words like they're poems, and I would just read and trying to write. And it was just a very, very, very artistic period, these 3 years, where I wrote six, 700 songs during that time.
Wow.
And 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 I was dancing, and I did a few movies as an actor. I just pursued everything. You know what I mean? I was thinking, oh,
Yeah.
let's give this a try. Let's give this a try. But they all have their funny little stories on how everything everything started. And if you glue all these pieces together, I think looking back to it now, it all makes sense to what I'm doing today, to this day as well.
Correct.
Yeah,
So correct. So you're getting the scholarship. You're an immigrant. You've been practicing English. Now you find this explosion of art, doing everything, but suddenly you come to America and you need to start from zero again. I know that's extremely
that's
hard because I have this conversation with many other artists. Uh, the American community, when you get here, everybody loves you. However, they don't understand that we don't understand the coin, we don't understand the measurements, we don't understand the traffic things, the procedure of doing taxes is
yeah,
it's like we our understanding of even the way we eat because as I grew up for a time in England and Italy, right? So you wake up and eat early, right? Then you eat
hmm
at 2, then you have dinner at 6. And then you come
yeah,
to America and they tell you, go, a second. Here, you just take something in the morning, your lunch is at 2, and your dinner is at 6. He's like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? And what time are
Yeah,
you? Those little simple things that, that you know this in Greece. We put the number, right? And then the street, right? I mean, the street and then the number. And here's this number and then the street. It's crazy for an immigrant to understand that. It's different for those little details. So now you're jumping into a plane. I'm assuming your family is happy about you moving here. If not,
yeah,
please correct me. And then you're landing in Boston. Tell us to that
yeah.
experience.
Well, it was definitely a very, very transfer transformative, transformational, experience, because when we applied we went to Athens and auditioned, and the first year our guitar player got accepted. I ended up, I thought I didn't do well, so I didn't even bother. Turns out I was admitted from the first year. I auditioned the second year, and I I got in with a scholarship. So everything was kind of like a preparation for me moving to America. And like looking back to it now, it's not couple steps, from the moment you get accepted. I mean, from your application to your preparation and your years of preparation to go and be able to audition and get the scholarship to begin with. And the scholarship, me bringing up the scholarship all the time is not to tell you, oh, I was really good and I got a scholarship, is to point out that I was not going to be able to do it any other way
Yeah.
if it wasn't for the scholarship. And I had to give up a lot of things to move out to America. I was on a full ride at the conservatory in Greece playing classical piano. It was something I pursued after, all the excitement, and I was playing piano concertos, and I was playing Chopin and Rachmaninoff and very, very
Oh,
demanding stuff just because I loved it so much. But I knew I was not going to be a concert pianist. I knew I didn't want to do that. I was writing, and when the scholarship came, everything lined up in that direction to moving to America. So, you have your embassy and you have your papers and your visa, and the embassy has to approve you. So it's not like, oh, you got a scholarship now, everything's okay.
no, it's
And I had to,
complicated.
yeah, and I had to conclude my studies in Greece because I was studying already. So everything lined up to the month where I graduated in June of 2018, and July it was my month to prepare, and then August I was in America. 15th of August I landed here. So everything happened so fast, and I had to finish all my courses. I had to you know close all my pages, because at that time my mentality was that I'm going to move to America, and that's it. We have this
Did you
expression
leave?
in Yeah, we have this expression in Greece. We say, you throw a black rock behind you, and it means that you're just basically moving out, and that's it. And I was so black and white with the whole concept that I thought I was never going to come back to Greece. I'm moving to America, and that's it. I'm and that was 7 years ago. So we've come a long way, but yeah, that
So
was definitely.
did you leave any loved one, like a girlfriend or somebody back there? Please.
I did, yeah, I did. Um,
That's a hard thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we kept it kind of the first year, over distance, and I didn't go back to Greece until the pandemic, basically, for a little bit. So that's I'm already 2 years out there that I didn't go back. So she came and visited me, and it was rough, man. It was rough, and I think it was rough because um, I went in a place that I didn't know about. So I know they say it's a little harder for the person who stays behind, because you live a life with somebody and then you move to another place, and that person is living the same life, but you're not there. But uh, I didn't go to America for vacation. I had to
Yeah.
go to school, and I had to work, and I had to pay rent, and I was by myself, and it was everything was just new. I mean, I was excited about the new thing and of course, being
Of course.
At Berkeley, but the other
Yeah, but your
thing,
heart was there. Your
yeah, and
musical heart was here, and your physical heart was there, right? Yeah.
exactly, yeah, and that thing kind of started growing out, uh, and it ended uh, a year later, um, basically,
And
right,
how
right.
this, go ahead, sorry, how this transform into your music? Because fundamental part of being an artist is to live love and in love and without love, because we become, as any artist, we have our shiny, period, our dark period, our mistreated, our regret periods, and that always represent in our art, regardless of what kind of art. How this compilation of new good experiences and following my dream, and I gotta leave my, throw the rock behind, right?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
that represented in your music.
Well, I guess I would have to think of the stuff that I talk about in my songs, and um love, I know it sounds cheesy, but love is a very, very pivotal point. But love has many faces and flares, and it's satisfied love, unsatisfied love, love that wasn't experienced, um love that's branching out to, lust, or excitement, or unfulfilled love. It's just all of this, platonic love, friendship with
Yeah.
love, and family. And then this with all its emotions in the branch, uh, and you basically have my entire discography there, because you put the longing of the family, you put having to give all of that up, and then you put all this excitement that I had not knowing how America is going to be. So you have all these songs about how 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 is it going to be living there, how is it going to be pursuing a career in that, the dreamer. And coming back to that, uh i don't think I don't think it's a bad thing for somebody, to be a dreamer and have big dreams. I think everybody has big dreams, at least those who, wanna do something, good with their life, and pursue things. And for me, I'm never gonna come back and judge this part of me, because it was probably the purest. It wasn't infiltrated by it's hard, and you're Greek, and it's not gonna be easy, and you have to work, and you have no health insurance, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, it was pure. I could see Billy Joel, and I could see Elton John, and I could see Tom Waits, and I could see these concerts, and I could close my eyes, and I could picture myself being there. And that was so pure. And haven't I haven't been able to capture that since I moved to America, and I'm going to be here almost 6 years in August. And that doesn't mean that I still don't write. Of course, I write and I do other stuff, but the feeling has sinked in, and grounded itself in a way where now where now this is where the stuff is happening. This is like actual gigs with actual people from the industry, with actual musicians, where I'm dreaming of Guns N' Roses, and now I live, a mile from where they used to play. So this is the realistic aspect of all those things. And all it did to me is not like flatter me and get me off you know, um, off my feet, but it just grounded me in a way of
Oh yeah, it
gratitude, of
humbles you.
under and humbled me in a way that
Yeah.
I'm here. This is all the years that I was in Greece writing songs, and that nobody was listening, and that I wrote about all those things that hadn't even had experienced, with a wild, vivid imagination of how is it going to be in America, and how is it going to be about that person that I'm going to meet walking in New York City. Like, they're almost like a prophecy, like a uh, what's that word I'm looking for here, Jake?
A
Like a
premonition?
A
premonition, a
premonition.
premonition, a
Jake,
premonition.
just for the audience, Jake is just here just for the moments that we need him. Thank you, Jake. Keep going, Papa D.
Well, I'm about to hijack the show in a second, but I want Dimitri to please finish his thought.
Yeah, but yeah, anyways, that's what I wanted to say. I would I would be working on all those things, and that was the good time that this thing happened back then. Because if I hadn't been doing all that stuff by myself, that probably wouldn't have put me into Berkeley, and that probably wouldn't have brought me to America, and I would move out here with no songs and no
And
money,
I,
and
and I
like it would just
understand.
and it would just have been impossible.
I understand what you're saying. That is humbling. Just it was 2022, I think 23, that I got the chance to record an album that didn't work out. Pappa D. They offered me a good deal with a record label to sing Mexican traditional music, and it's something that I don't do.
Hmm.
But I'm the kind of guy that like to take the challenge to taste their voice, because my voice is not designed for that. I haven't practiced that kind of projection with my voice, but I like the challenge, and they put me in the studio in Paramount Studios when Guns N' Roses recorded the Appetite for Destruction. And I understand why you say humbling, because we have a full production filming, a little documentary about it, and it was so humbling being recording there with the same microphones that not just Guns N' Roses, so many huge artists has done, and the
So many.
energy of the place, that it was so important as a personal matter that actually I canceled the documentary and nobody has seen it. I got it in my hard drive because I want to keep that for myself. And it's just about being humble about that experience that I want to keep for myself. So the person put it out, right? Oh, let's brag about it. No, I understand what you're saying, because, and that's, I think, that what makes you such a unique, real artist, because your whole story to this point that we're talking right now is about your the evolution with a family, right? Of course, people have good and bad things. The uncle being a rocker, right? Being with grandpa, writing things. The beautiful story how you start playing piano, how you still connected with your friends. Um, I never seen not even one spark of ego, and I want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
We run. I don't know if you know. I own a record label with Jake, right? I run with a lot of artists. I do the podcast. We own the company of the podcast, and I do this because I really love interviewing and getting to know real people. And I always say in the company, we need to meet real people that happen to be a good artist or happen to be a good programmer but never a good artist that maybe could be a good people. So I want to congratulate you on this
Thank you
path
for
that is
that.
just starting. You're 28 years old. I will kill to be 28 again. I can see a bright future in front of you. And now I'm gonna let Jake hijack our show. Go ahead, Jake.
Well, no,
Interrupt
no.
this magnificent interview.
I have a smooth transition. I do. Um, Not to blow proverbial smoke up your ass, Papa D, but so for those who don't know, I had Papa D on my podcast, which actually, fun fact,
Of
Dimitri and
course.
Say it.
Dimitri,
Yeah, you got
no, this is funny. Dimitri and I talked for an hour and a half, and we never once brought up the name until after we stopped
around.
talking
Yeah, we
live,
stopped recording, and
and then he
I
brought
told
it
him,
up, and I just went, I've got I've got a gentleman from Greece who speaks Greek, and we never once brought up the name, which I mispronounced apparently. Although I do have an answer for that based on what I read. I'm going with the ancient pronunciation. I guess they switched the
yeah. So
pronunciation
we
because there's
had
two
the
e's. Yeah, there's two e's in Greek or two e equivalents in Greek. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. But what I wanted to say though is in preparation for that interview, I actually did my homework. I researched you. I listened to a lot of your music, and it's funny because your discography is like my musical personality. It's a lot of everything, but it's all good, right? But one thing I could, and I can't, there might be a proper term for this where every single song of yours I listen to is particularly instrumentals is you can feel the emotion behind it, but I can't quite pinpoint what it is. And I assume it's different for everybody. And you mentioned when you were talking about, you know, the love, the different forms of love that you incorporate into your songs. I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what I was picking up on, but I couldn't quite find the words. But the transition to hijack is I've completely forgot because Virus as always threw me off at the beginning of the show.
Always.
This podcast is brought to you by another podcast. It's actually the newest one from Areti Media, leading the band, which Max, would you like to, since you're on leading the band, would you like to take a moment to tell everyone what they can
I,
expect?
yes. Leading up the band is a new podcast that we're throwing with the lead singer from Balena. Balena is our new metal band that part of our record label, part of our corporation. They released their album last week, and in the first day they reached number 3 in iTunes metal. The only band over us is Metallica, so that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the lead singer in the front with me, and then we found this amazing co-host that she's, for me, is the female Eminem. The woman can rap, and I'm gonna be honest. I even told this to her. I don't like hip hop. It's not something that I'm gonna go and listen to. But when she performs, you go like, "What? Really?" She got this um
It's different.
change of tempo in her metrics, right? She's doing, I told her, you're doing polyrhythms with the syllables, and she doesn't know music. And she's like, what is that? And I go like, oh my God, right? So we have a podcast called Leading Up the Band, and we talk about the experiences of what it takes you to be an artist. And yeah, that's how we connect. Um, Toon Talk 2.0, but it was really important for me, Pappa D, to get to know you in Toon Talk 2.0, right? Hopefully, you can be in the other podcast in
Oh
a in
yeah,
a sooner
totally.
because it's a different. It's not a deep interview like this one.
Yeah,
Um,
that's where you really get to nerd out on music because everyone there's a musician. There's nobody on there who's just like staring blankly into the camera because they're not sure what you're talking about
so
on
you're
that
talking
one.
about yourself again, but let me go back to something, Pappa D. These emotions of what you do, because I started singing in a boy band, then I went to a rock band that it was really similar to you two. Then I went to a solo process that I was really deep after the death of my guitar player and the death of the bass player. And I was in a really dark place. I didn't even decide not to make original songs. Just went and did 20 covers from a double album. That's where the Grammy nomination came. Blah 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 blah. But then I recovered and I started doing pop again, really happy pop because it was fun. I was It was a period of recovering from that space that I was happy and then life happened, right? It's like my brain jumped backwards. But then as life prevailed, a lot of people that follow us know this story. I'm just updating you, Papa D. I got COVID. I was sick with COVID really bad. I lost my voice completely. I was 24 hours they intubate me and put me on a coma.
Oh
So
my
I
God,
mean,
wow.
so when I got back to that, a dear friend of mine, PJ, bass player from the band DLD in Mexico, they're touring America right now. And over there, they it was funny. Let me make a parenthesis. I told him, "How's your American tourist going?" Like, it's really weird because we're playing in places of 1,000, 2,000 people, and we just played the National Auditorium in Mexico with 18,000 people 3 times in a row. And the experience, they come to America and it's a reset button and from nothing. And he told me, let's make a band. We always talk. We have a band since we were kids. And he stayed with me till my voice came back, progressed. We start bringing other friends. And probably the album that I've released a couple of months back was Jake, the year one from my new band,
Hmm.
is dark, Papa D. There's no happy songs because it's my period of darkness so much that my ex-girlfriend broke up with me because she told me my energy was too dark when she listened to my music. I'm not even
Oh.
angry at her. That means the feeling is there, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean
that,
she felt it, yeah.
and that's good. It's not good that we broke up. Obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's good that the process of the enigma of the sound is coming through. Uh, and now the new album that I'm doing, that I hopefully get to invite you for a song. Just the name of the album is so dark. It's called what is the name? Chronicles of a Serial Killer. and The Last Supper reimagined. I'm going through a deep torn of conversing famous songs reimagined by the perception of a serial killer. To go deep, I'm going deep, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
I say this to normal people with no experience, and they go, okay. When I talk to artists, they right, because
Well,
understanding.
I'm already thinking of sounds as you're talking, but
Well, the last song that we released, it was Imagine Reimagine from the perception of one of the biggest serial killers in Seattle. What was the name of the guy? Jake? I
In
totally blank
Seattle?
at this. Yeah, Seattle and Portland, and he got caught in Miami killing girls. He seduced the girls, fall in love with them, put them in
Oh,
his dog.
are you talking about Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy, yeah. And actually, if you watch the video that I edit and I produce, all the image of the kid that is a baby in the back is Ted Bundy as a baby. But as a baby, he's thinking of Imagine. Everyone before becoming a serial killer has a background that makes them become that. I'm not celebrating heinous acts. It's a contrast revolution against the media saying stop celebrating heinous acts, right? And look the music behind. But what if he does the music, right? It's a complicated matter, and I don't want to bore you with this, Papa D. But I understand your process of emotions and pain. When I record a song, sometimes I get mad with the girlfriend, and she doesn't done anything, but I need to put myself into that character to perform the song, right?
hmm
The previous song from the previous album from my band, uh, it was called Torn, and the chorus says, after all I did for you, I was angry with the girlfriend for a month and a half. And she didn't do anything. The song wasn't even about her. But I understand your emotions, and I love how you share your story. And I see only good things coming to you, man. I really just see. I don't know if you got the chance to listen to an artist called Charlie Garcia from Argentina.
No, I don't think so. The
Your
name does
music,
sound familiar though.
the he got I mean, that changes all the time, but they in a point, if Rolling Stone give him the most sad song in the history of music, and it's a song called 3 a.m. and it's a beautiful poem of the last 3 minutes of a man before he killed himself,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
I
really
s-
deep.
I found him. I saved him. So
Yeah, it's
um
really deep. Let me tell you a good story. He was in a band when he was young. He was in the conservatory. That's what reminds me of you. He was a classical artist. And then he grew up, and when he was 15, he made a band called Seru Hiran. You
hmm
can listen to Seru Hiran, that it was released a year before Queen, and you can hear how Queen used elements from Seru Hiran. That big this guy is. That's what I'm comparing to. And he's probably 74 years old, and he's still
Yeah,
rocking. It's a complicated guy.
Sujanira. Yeah, found it. Sujanira.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing to listen, but I think you're gonna appreciate it. And then I listened to
Vida.
your instrumental music. Well, your music. I don't want to call it instrumental because the whole power of your music. And you mentioned a couple of jazz trumpets, but I hear a lot of monk in you when you play. You know?
I like. There's two things I like from Monk. I mean, he really three things, I guess. He was an innovator in a sense that he was a composer. He wasn't just like an incredible pianist like Oscar Peterson. He was a composer. He had his own songbook. So that's fascinating to me from the beginning. Then on top of that, he's got he's got a great sense of swing and creativity, and he's very creative in his choices and experimental with harmonies, and his tunes are fun to
I know.
play. And it's hard to play. Like I would definitely not say I play like Monk, and I wish I've studied him more, but I know of his tunes. But again, as an inspiration to incorporate that in my songwriting, not because I am a jazz pianist and I just want to, burn in a jam session. And the third thing is that they, when they asked him, "Hey, Monk, how do you show up at the gig?" He would say, "Sharp as you got," and sharp
Yeah.
as you got, and that stuck with me in the way I carry myself to to not to like take good care of how I look and what I wear and show up at the stage and be presentable, look like I'm gonna perform, not that I just showed up there from the supermarket. And it's at the end of the day, it's just how we carry ourselves. And I realized that everything was becoming an entirety. I wasn't waking up and going to work, and then I was a musician, and then
Yeah.
I was a boyfriend to some girl, and then I was just, it was like a whole thing. How I built my space, how how I just carry myself in the whole day. Because I was thinking that it's music is in my mind all day anyways. So I might as well just embrace it and have that be my entire
And you work
my
hard,
entirety.
and you work hard for this, like you say. And this is not to put, say bad anything about anybody. There's many people like, I'm gonna go to the other side of the spectrum, right? Richie Valens. Richie Valens have raw talent, right? He grab a guitar, somebody make him fall in love. He make two songs, then he dies, right? Then you have people like Moby, that he was an advertiser his whole life, and suddenly he make a good album, right? No, no, no. There's people like you that works every corner and doesn't cut corners to get to the point. I mean, the first time I listened to your music, I wouldn't believe that you were so young, because there's an evolution of colors and matiz and dynamics in your music that I really like. Um,
Thank you.
but yeah, congratulations on everything that you're doing. Thank you for giving us this time. We can wait to hear more about you. Uh, Hopefully, we can get to know more as you keep progressing. And Jake, I know it's time of recommendations. Let me guide you, Papa D. This show, we have a recommendation of a movie, a TV show or TV series, music, something strange that you want to recommend to people, right? And something you if you don't have it in your mind, you can skip. But I want to do something different before, Jake, if you allow me.
Uh-oh.
Hmm.
And this is gonna be hard for Papa D. Favorite classic musician or composer? Go.
Favorite classic? Oh, I don't think that's hard at all. I got my top one right here. I don't know did we talk about with that, Jake? Did we talk about that on the
I
first one that we did?
I believe we did actually. I think we touched on it. I don't think we went in super deep, but I
Uh,
believe so.
well, my favorite one by far is Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff.
Sergei
Surprising.
Sergei Rachmaninoff. Yeah, I love his concertos. I was obsessed with it in 2022 when I was here and we got the baby grant, with my partner at the time, now my wife. When we got the piano at that time, it was just so nice to wake up, make coffee, and then sit in your piano in your living room. Just have that accessible, sounding great, beautiful piano from 1938. And I started practicing his second piano concerto, and it's always one of my dreams to play with an orchestra, and I'm very close to it. So that's
If
something
I can
that
help you in anything, Papa D, I will be more than happy. I got the chance to record a song. I record Tears in Heaven because person close to my family passed, and I record the cover Tears in Heaven with the National Orchestra, Symphonic Orchestra in Austria, and it's a dream, man. It was a dream of my life, and I'm half of the musician that you are, so I know you're gonna
no,
kick it
come
out of the
on.
park, man. Um, so for me, Chopin, I must confess, I'm a Chopin guy.
I love him. I love him too. I love him. But the things that Rachmaninoff brought out to me, I mean, in composition wise,
Yeah,
I cannot even touch him. I mean, the best way to describe him is that if you see the 88 keys on the piano,
Yeah.
he was so complex that it's almost like he tried to
He
write in
slides.
between the
Yeah,
key.
he slides between the key. I felt that too. Wow. It's amazing that you felt that. Let
So
me tell you that
definitely,
actually,
yeah.
Rachmaninoff is for you. I actually in my will says that Nocturne in D minor is the song that they need to put on me when I'm gone. I need to have a headphones listening that into repeat till the battery dies. Nocturne in D minor is my favorite song in the existence of the world. If I'm angry, I put that. If I'm happy, I put that. But if I'm really mad, I put that to calm down. So that's something deep on me to Chopin. Uh, Obviously, for people that don't know, and maybe you wanna talk about your favorite classic,
I was just gonna
Gar
say,
Brooks.
are you not
Gar
going
Brooks
Garth
doesn't
Brooks?
cover.
Hey, you know
Yeah,
what?
go ahead.
Low Places is actually a pretty decent song.
There you go.
However,
I know you were gonna say no.
which
The
I know.
classical, please.
Well,
Classical.
and I know what you mean by classical. Technically, it's not classical. Technically, it's Baroque. But my favorite.
Sorry, that's what I
No,
don't
no, no,
invite
no.
in the conversation.
I'm saying that for the music nerds because I was correct. No, no, I took it was one of my favorite classes I ever took in college, and it was random. I needed an art elective, and I so they were experimenting with these what they called condensed courses. So it was only 4 weeks, but it was like a 4 hour class because you had to get 16 credit hours. I first of all, I fucking loved it, but I took a history of music class, and that's where I got corrected because I've loved one song in particular by this composer since I was in elementary school because I heard it in a music class and I was just like, what in the actual hell is this? But so my favorite classical Baroque composer would be Bach, specifically uh, his Fugue in G minor.
Beautiful,
I
beautiful.
Beautiful.
love that song.
From the prelude, from the prelude and fugues, yeah. So
Hmm.
a lot of these composers and their styles of technique is what inspired me. I love Rachmaninoff the most, but Chopin, um, and Bach, and all of these other ones had all these song forms that I loved. So if you've seen, like, on my Spotify and all the instrumental stuff that I have volumes of preludes. I have like actually 8 books out there, and I call it books because Bach preludes were books, and they are inspired by the same idea. 12 keys, minor and major, prelude and fugue. That's 24 plus 24, 48, and 48 has 2 volumes. But since I don't do this counterpoint composition style, my preludes follow Bach's method, but are inspired by Chopin, because Chopin's
Mhm.
preludes are more mellow and melancholic, and
Mellow.
I can, or cinematic, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but like I can say the things that I want to say, thinking of Rachmaninoff. So to conclude this whole triangle of composers, I think of Rachmaninoff. I'm inspired by Chopin and Bach, and it comes out more as
Pappa D.
Pappa D.
There you go.
Yeah. Small caveat though, I would say I like Bach, but I probably respect Tchaikovsky the most.
Fair, fair. There's
Fair.
so many. There's so many. I mean, it's really hard to narrow it down, but I just, if somebody was like grabbing me by the neck now and is like, yeah, 3 seconds, go, Rachmaninoff, right away. I
So
love
let me grab you
Liszt.
from the neck. Let me grab you from the neck. Favorite opera?
Oh my God.
No, you're grabbing you from the neck. Come on.
Tristan and oh, La Chi,
Isolde?
yeah, I cannot pronounce it in
Look
English.
at
Wait,
that, Jake.
Tristanos, que es Doldy in Greek. Tristan and by Wagner, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
He was
Hmm.
another pioneer, double orchestras, and yeah, just too deep. Tchaikovsky has some good stuff too, but yeah.
And what about you, Jake?
Not so I will confess I'm not as well versed in operas as I should be. Um if I had to pick one though that I shouldn't say seen, I've listened to it. Um, but probably because I love the story more than anything is Faust, another Wagner,
Hmm. Faust.
which actually one of my prized possessions I have. So it was given to me by an old flame. It's my novelization of Faust, but it has you can't see it, but one half is the English translation, but the first half is the original German in the
Oh wow, you have
novelization.
it. You have it in your library.
hmm I I got this, and this is one of the best gifts I've ever received. So it's a prized
Well,
possession of mine.
he always does show us the book, and I love that about Jake. I got a weird one, and probably I'm gonna be biased with this. Donizetti, Elixir de Amor. I got a really important thing because that was my first approach to opera. So I was in Mexico. I was probably 13 years old, and they invited me to the opera for the first time. And I was a kid going, I don't want that. I don't care about it. But then one of the most magnificent things happened in my personal experience. And as I talked this to the people, they told me that that was one in a kind. When it comes to perform Una furtiva lágrima, right? The guy performs so majestic and perfect that the whole opera stand up and clap for him. That's really rare that happens. We sit down and the tradition for the people that doesn't know, when the audience does that, the artists need to repeat the song. It was not a song, but you know what I mean, just to talk to everyone. And he repeated again, and you know what happened, guys? Everybody stand up and do it again. We sit down, he repeated, and for 3 times he need to perform it. And that's really rare that happen in opera. It was really, I get goosebumps just to think about it because the emotion was so big for me that changed my whole perspective of it's just opera too. Wow, it's opera. So even I listen to many, of course, Tchaikovsky. I mean, I've been to many operas, right? That one in a special hold a place in my heart because I got to see one of the best performance in the world with
Yeah.
this tenor, and that blew my mind. Uh,
Well, hey,
so uh,
not to cut you off, I just want to add something that to me perfectly illustrates why live music, live performances are so important because again, another piece of, you know, classical. Um, Swan Lake, for example, I didn't understand Swan Lake until I saw it live. And then when
yeah,
I saw a live performance, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I appreciate it. But that's why it's important because seeing a live musician or a live stage production in any form, it's a completely different experience. And I don't think you
Yeah.
of
can,
course.
yeah, I don't think you can minimize the difference because
And it's a
it's
little
just
lost
you know.
nowadays. People care about the show more than the musical act, sadly. However, it's part of the entertainment and depend of the audience that you're going through.
Well, you say that,
I
but Adele sold out shows just sitting on a stool and
It's
singing.
funny. It's funny how people in America and Papa D will know this in the commercial area. They don't know who Robbie Williams is in America, Papa D. These people. I mean, Robbie Williams. He's been doing what Adele everybody knows for 20, 30 years, right? And the guy's been putting stadiums together. And I know what you're saying, but he's one of the artists that commercial artists that portrays musical perfection with a show, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna respect Taylor Swift, not my cup of tea, right? But she's a show that sounds good. Beyonce's a show that dance good. All the hip hop artists in general, a good show that, right? Again, somebody wanna sue me? I hate Bad Bunny. I hate his music. He's not bringing anything to the table. That's not my cup of tea at all. But there's a lot of artists that need to be in the mainstream, right? That they care about the music and the show as well. I will leave that for my recommendations. But go ahead, Jake. I was having a good time, and you need to remind me the commercial size of everything,
Well, so
right?
By the way, Peso Pluma's coming through in June if you wanna go.
Keep going, please.
Actually, no, I do have a question for you because I shouldn't say I got dragged. I was invited and I went to, do you, what's his name? Alexander Manga?
Who you asking?
Anybody?
I don't know who that guy is.
Oh, okay. I guess he's from Colombia, but I went pretty, pretty decent show. I didn't know if you were aware of his music. But anyway, so
Uh,
movie.
Let me.
Alexander Manga.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, Jake.
Hold on,
My
sis.
brain
I didn't know
stopped.
who he was either. I was the only person there that didn't know the word, so everybody else that was
So,
there knew exactly.
commercial music is has their own magic, and you need to give it to the producers, the developers, the marketing people, because they do a hell of a job, right? You got the good people and a good budget, and you will get there. Uh, yeah, I really don't know. I don't know about him. And yes, you can send me tickets for backstage to see Peso Pluma, and I will just not go. I will not give it away because I will burn them and then put them in the toilet. So we save two souls to be hurt for life. So go ahead, Jake. Recommendations.
Okay. So as per usual, I'm going with a theme. All of these are somehow at least tertiarily musically related. But actually, I watched this last night randomly because I saw that it was on Netflix. Here Comes the Boom. It's a surprisingly good movie, starring
It's
Kevin.
a funny movie. Yeah,
No, it's a surprisingly good movie because the whole point of it. Don't give me that. Have you seen it?
of course. Salma
Oh,
Hayek is there. You're
okay,
talking to
valid,
me. Of course,
valid,
I know.
valid
It's a
point,
great
valid point.
movie to watch.
It is, but
Sorry.
it surprised me though because it is very much a comedy, but it also has a lot of heart. The premise of the movie is you have a school teacher who's burnout, disenfranchised, doesn't really care anymore, finds out one of his coworkers, who is the music teacher at the school, is going to lose his job because of budget cuts. So he comes up with a scheme to purposefully lose mixed martial arts bouts because you still get paid. And he's not a good fighter. And Boss Rutan is in it. For those of you who don't know,
He's
Boss Rutan,
overweight. He doesn't know
yeah,
shit about
yeah, he's
UFC,
not.
and he
He
goes into
wrestled,
the
yeah,
ring.
yeah, he
Yeah, it's
wrestled in
really
high
funny.
school. But Boss Rutan's hilarious. But the movie's got a lot of heart because Henry Winkler plays that music teacher, and they've got I guess would that be a musical theme or a motif? The central piece of music is Neil Diamond's "I'll Be Home," and it
Yeah.
Okay,
it works insanely well. And they have a
Remind
really
me, actually it's a true story, right? It's
no,
based on a true story. No,
I don't
I'm
think so.
confused then.
No, I don't think so. There,
You could
there's
check it out.
there's another one similar to that, but there's a really good performance at the end. It's a very good movie. Here Comes the Boom. It's on Netflix currently, but honestly, you should just buy it because it's worth it.
I'm
Pa-
gonna save it.
don't
I'm
waste
gonna
your
save
time,
it.
Papa D. Your brain is high advanced for that, bro. I'm just kidding, Jake. I'm just kidding, Jake. I'm just kidding. Uh, so movie, you wanna go, Papa D, or you want me to go with my recommendation of a movie?
Any kind of movie or
Anything. I'm the one who makes it
Anything.
hard.
This is Toon Talk. You can talk about anything. I love to go deep in your our conversation to get to know you. But usually we say fuck and we trash Bad Bunny every day. So we
Not
just
every
took it
day.
serious today because you were here. Well, not every day.
yeah,
So
yeah.
any
It's been a
movie.
while, actually.
Oh, this looks like a good movie. Okay, I saved it. Um, oh man, well, I haven't been watching a lot of stuff. I can say what I watched something recently when I was out on the road one night at my room. Um, I saw I saw Jersey Boys for the first
Mm,
time for Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons and kind of the connection to the mob and how they started and because we would play a lot of these songs on the tour, Sherry and December 63 and I just saw it and I thought it was a very very good movie and
that's a good recommendation.
yeah, and I like all these movies, like the green is that the Green Book, like
Oh
with the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pianist?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's a really good movie. The Green Book
that's
is a
very
really
good.
good.
just
It's a
like
really good movie.
all these movies that are like there's music around and um there's stuff to that, but they also have this flair that takes me back to a time that I wasn't born, that I wish I was around but I wasn't. And I just love everything about that. I love the music, I love the cinematography, I love the visuals. It just that vibe it creates. The I love the fashion of the day, the cars they used to drive, the style. It's very dark beer at the same time with a lot of stuff going on, um, but definitely a lot of things blossom during that time, and
Yeah.
I love all these kind of movies. So yeah, just a nice quick one that I've seen recently that I really really liked.
I have one that is totally different. Let me tell you about this movie. It was done in 1993. The cinematography is really perfectly done. The script is based in a book, and the book was out, and right away, the Latino culture and the Chicano culture, for the people who don't know, the Chicano culture is the people that are first generation in America from Latinos, usually Mexicans. They call it the Goodfellas for Latinos, right? Like it is like the mob thing for Latinos, but it's not exactly mob. It's a 3 hours movie that the guy that direct the movie is still an epic movie. The guy that direct that movie, and then he become the president of the union of the Association of Directors in LA till the day, because that movie was is that kind of movies that if you're a student you need to watch, right? And that movie it was done by uh, a small production company. That production company went broke, and it was bought by Trimax. That we all know what happened with our friend that was touching girls, right? In the Me
Oh,
Too. So that company got sold, and actually Disney bought that, and it was so rough that I've been trying to get the rights for that movie for probably 10 years, Pappa D, because the movie was released in 1992. And it was like in a corner in a storage, nobody wanted to talk about it. But now that Disney Plus bought Hulu and they make the merch, guess what they released today? A remastered version of a movie called Blood In, Blood Out is the name of the movie. It's an epic 3 hours movie that will give you 3 decades of three cousins. That the I'm not gonna ruin for you guys, but the premise of that is you have the Chicano kid, the half brother, and the third guy called Miklo. He got an American dad, so he's white with green eyes, but in his heart he feel that he's Mexican Chicano. And they
Wow.
go through the, I mean, there's no Latino that I know that you told him blood in, blood out, and he told him Vatos Locos forever. So every time you hear Vatos Locos, they mean that because the gang where they are when they were kids is Vatos Locos. It's crazy, crazy fellas, right? Vatos Locos. And it's a really, it's rough. It's really rough. When they say this is for mature audience, they are not kidding. It's extremely rough, right? But it's a good movie that, like I said, I got my friend like you, Papa D, my first base player. We still talk. He's been a guest, the Oracle we call him. He's an specialist in pop culture. Once a year, we sit down and we just find it in YouTube, but it was in
Yeah,
low definition. Now we can find it, finally see it in HQ in Hulu. People in Hulu, Blood In, Blood Out. It's an epic Chicano culture, so you understand the Latino culture in America.
I saved it.
Jake,
Yeah,
you will like. It's hard, but you will like it. Jake,
television series. All right, so this one is an oldie but a goodie. I discovered it. I forget when. I think I was still in high school when I first started watching it. It came across my radar. It's an anime series, a shoujo anime series called Nana, and the premise is two random girls, both named Nana, which is a strange name in Japan. It's not very common. They meet on a train. They're both moving to the big city. Specifically, though, it's about music, and the premise of the show is the musician Nana was in a band in her hometown with her boyfriend and their two friends. And just before they were about to, start really growing, her boyfriend, their current lead guitarist, gets offered a position in an already established band as their bassist. So he leaves and joins there. A year later, Nana follows to the big, well, she doesn't follow him, but she moves to the big city and they end up reconnecting. It's a really, really good show with a lot of good music. Specifically, though, they did a live action adaptation of the movies and has two of my favorite songs of all time. It's very, very good. If you're into that. If you're not into
Nice.
those kinds of stories, you won't like it at all. But it's very stylistic. It's got an art style that I don't normally like, but it works for this show.
Nice, nice. What
What
about
what's
you,
the name?
Pappa D?
What's the
It's
name of the series, Jake?
Nana, Nana. I'll be honest too, I have not listened to the English dub, so I don't know if it's good or not. I watched the original Japanese because when I watched it, it wasn't available here. I could only watch the Japanese. So I know the Japanese dub is good. I can't speak for the English dub. It's probably shit, but you know.
What about you, Pappa D? TV show, series, mini series, anything that you remember? It could be from any time in your life.
Well, I haven't really been seeing TV um the last 6 years. But I am gonna say I want to keep it classic, because that was a very big one for me that I haven't seen. It just hasn't happened. But we started with my wife for the first time 2 years ago, um, the Game of Thrones, and
Oh, nice.
I was just, it's not that I was against it, but you know what I mean when everybody's telling you, "Hey, have you seen?" Or they reference something from the show, and you're like, "I've never seen it," and you always get this reaction,
Oh, I know. I know.
and like I'm like everybody's like, "We have to see, you have to see it," and the more everybody tells me to do something, the less I want to do it. I'm work kind of that way. But then eventually, she just had started it, then sat to chill on the couch, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit for a little bit, and I got addicted. I think we saw the whole 8 seasons, however many hours they are. We saw it all in a week. So we done a lot of these like 10 p.m. to 7 in the morning. Like I think a good 2 or 3 days the sun came up before we went
That's
to bed, and
fantastic.
yeah, I was not, working at the time. I didn't have the job at the music school. I like to work at night on my music stuff anyway. So, but that was something, man. And some of the scenes there, I I would never come and aggressively force you to watch it, but it's so darn good. I
It's so good.
really,
That
and it's a
happened to me too.
commitment.
I watched the first season and then it became famous. So everybody was talking. I stopped watching it until it was over. I started again because I know when some people tell you, you gotta watch it, it's like, dude, you never watch a show in your fucking life. I know you're a fan and a specialist, right? So I know what you feel. But yeah, I love Game of Thrones. Probably I will rewatch it thanks to your recommendation
Yeah,
because I
I
finished it a
res
long
It's
time ago.
it's a commitment. It's a
Yeah,
commitment. Like
yeah, I resisted it until last year. And
yeah.
then I started, I think I'm in season 5 now. And I go through spurts though. I can't because I know I can't sit down and commit to like watch multiple episodes back to back to back. So I'll watch anywhere from like 3 to maybe 10 episodes across a few days and then I get busy doing something else, but I will
that's
eventually
that's
finish it.
still that's still a good one. Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? One I forgot, maybe Jake and you, Max, if you guys have seen it, but I I really, really liked Miami Vice, the old one, the
Oh
old one.
yeah,
It's
bro.
Miami in the 90s, the vibes,
I used to
Crockett
dress like
Tubbs.
him. I used to wear the suits white and flip, the bottom with the sandals and t-shirts. I used to do that, and I love that.
I do it. I do it. Like I think it
It's
influenced
awesome.
me a lot, and I was like, "What the heck
I
is that
think that when I
show?"
go when I go back to LA, you gotta dress like one and like to the other, and then we go with your wife and
Okay,
a girlfriend for a
who am
drink.
I gonna am I gonna be, Crockett or Tubbs?
You choose. I'm just gonna look cool in a. I'm gonna be Krakow, obviously, but you choose whatever you want, bro.
Oh,
I don't
please
No,
mind.
put
I,
that on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
I
for
l-
sure. Like recur.
I like Tubbs because he would like always show up with like the full piece and the
Yeah,
vest and a tie. Didn't
yeah.
matter, and I got a lot of suits from the tour, so I would go with Tubbs. I think we could
When
we
when
could
I'm
rock that.
when I'm the chairman of the board, I'm actually in suits. I mean, yeah, but I relaxed now. My recommendation is really go to the music area. First, shout out to Gael Garcia Bernal, friend of the family, amazing actor. Um, Mozart in the Jungle. It's a comedy dash of the story of a teacher in New York of the conservatory, right? That it's kind of comedy drama, right? And it's everything happening in New York. Mozart in the Jungle on Amazon Prime. Mozart in the Jungle, sorry. So it's funny. It's a little dumb, but it's funny. It's good to see him acting so well in that show. What is next? A Strange Thing.
Strange
Oh
Thing or
Something
yeah.
music?
strange that you recommend. Well,
Strange,
Strange first, and we close with
Strange.
music. Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't. It's actually a series that I've recommended before, but I'm gonna again. There's probably a term for this too, but I don't know what the word is. So if anybody knows, enlighten me. So there's a funny thing that happens, at least with me. I think it happens to everybody, but I know for a fact it happens with me. So I will be exposed to something that would be considered classic, whether that be literature or music or what have you, through such an odd place. But my naturally curious brain, I resonate with it and then I research it. So this is how I connect classic literature and opera with anime.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I went through this period where I'm not going to say it was pirating because I wasn't. I mean, I was pirating, but I was pirating series that were not available in the US. They weren't here. They weren't licensed. So when that's the case, you have but one option, right? So
Yeah.
Pirate Bay.
no,
When
well,
you were
okay,
in high school,
actually,
Pirate Bay
yes.
was the thing, man.
Actually,
Yes. Come
I
on.
was gonna say actually yes. I forgot because I was gonna say no BitTorrent, but I'm like, well, yeah, I had to download it from Pirate Bay. But anyway, um, I got exposed to and actually kind of fell in love with a series called Shaman King, which again, much like Nana, it's an art style that I should hate, but it worked. There's a character in there called Faust the Eighth, who was a descendant of the original Dr. Faust, and his character was so weird and interesting. And then I remember because at that time I was subscribed to some monthly manga magazines or comic magazines, and the Shaman King manga was here, but the series wasn't yet, and that's where I first discovered it. And they had like a little in these magazines, you'd have the comics, but then you would have articles that would do things about the creator or fun facts about the character, and they had a whole article about Faust and all that, and I'm like, this is really freaking cool. And then that was also during the heyday of AMVs, anime music videos, and I saw one randomly with because I was huge into Rammstein at the time. I still am, but I mean I was hardcore into Rammstein at that time. Saw an anime music video with Faust, and that's how I saw the animation for the first time. And I was like, oh wow. And I just went on this rabbit hole about Faust and the whole like Faustian bargain, which is weird because I identified with the Faustian bargain before I knew what it was. And
Mm.
then I read Faust and I was like, holy shit, it put it into words.
So
Again,
your
and that's
recommendation is totally
ex-
fucking lost, bro. What the fuck you're talking about?
is nerd out on stuff.
Oh, okay.
If
Sorry.
some if
Sorry, I
something
got.
if something piques your interest, do some research. Hop on Wikipedia, get a book or two.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. I will do that for you. Pappa D is strange thing. Sorry, Jake. I'm just playing with you.
I know.
A strange idea, book, anything that you run into your life. If it's something from Greece that you can share that we actually need to look about, that will be great.
Oh man, I don't think I was prepared for that one. Okay, what can this thing
Whatever you want.
incorporate?
It's weird, so it can be
Whatever, whatever.
the
Could
more
be
obscure
weird
the
for
better.
you and not weird for nobody. Probably for you, The Walking Dead is weird, and you just say it. I don't know. Whatever you want.
Oh
I'm still
man.
thinking in mine, bro, because I just use my brain to go crazy
Okay,
in
well,
I actually I know what. Keep going, keep going.
well, I don't know if it's weird. It's definitely interesting and kind of like a moment of gluing all the pieces together, but realizing after like all this traveling and living in New Orleans for half a year right before the pandemic, and um, having a lot of Brazilian friends at Berkeley, hearing about, the carnival, um, the whole idea between the cultures, the whole idea of the carnival time leading up to the Easter, and the
Yeah.
whole idea of how that thing is connected in one way or another across several, religions and countries, how we would experience it, where we don't eat meat and we fly the kites, and we have the specific bread and halvas, like some sort of pastry, and then we start the preparation for Easter that comes right after the carnival, which carnival, everybody goes crazy. You drink, you eat, and you party. And my hometown is a very, very one of the biggest carnival cities in Greece. So that was my first experience for many, many years. And then moving to America, living in New Orleans, I saw how they go and do that to Mardi Gras, and with people that I knew from other countries, and how they would discuss that. And yeah, it's not the most crazy wild thing, or it's just something that I realized. And we just had our Greek Easter last week, which this year felt so further away from, the Catholic, like almost a month away. Like I remember I was still coming from Australia when I was on the tour, that we celebrated Easter with some Americans and Australians there, and I called my family. They said like our Easter is like literally a month from today. So it's just crazy how the calendars and the moving holidays and stuff work. That's all.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. Um, I gotta. This is not a weird recommendation per se, but I don't think we can close this recommendation if we don't talk about 2014, the movie Whiplash. Right? It's a really good movie about music. It's a little unrealistic, but it's good in emotions. It's the story of a drummer that is going to study to New York, right? And with the toughest teacher, music director, right? And how he goes through everything to try to please him, just to realize that the only person that he needed to please was himself. So Whiplash 2014, amazing movie. You guys gotta watch it. And now, this is the last part of the show, Pappa D. Don't worry, you're almost there. You're almost made it. Music that you can recommend, a song or a theme or a movement or whatever you want to recommend. Go ahead, Jake.
Well, one note about Whiplash, though, because if you, spoiler alert, if you pay attention to the end of the movie,
Why
he
you
doesn't.
gonna spoil it? Why you gotta spoil it, Jake?
I'm
Why you gotta do
elaborating.
this for the
I'm
people?
not going to say exactly what happens. I'm just saying he doesn't learn the lesson in the end. That's why I
Of
love
course he
the
does.
ending. No, he doesn't. No,
He
he
finds
does
himself, Jake.
no, he doesn't. He does
He finds
exactly what. No,
himself.
no, 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 no. He does
You know,
exactly.
I can't do this anymore.
He
Papa, did you want to
looks.
be my host, bro? Because I
No,
can't deal
he
with this guy
looks.
anymore.
No, because he looks up at his teacher, his director, and the teacher gives him the nod of approval, and then he smiles. He never learned the lesson.
Maybe,
There's no maybe. I
maybe,
watched the movie.
maybe. I don't see that, but okay.
It's left up to interpretation. I view it as
Yeah,
he
it's up
never
to
learned the lesson.
interpretation. So
Well,
if
Which
you haven't watched it, he just ruined it for you, people. Thank you,
no,
Jake, very much.
I didn't ruin anything. It's
So
still it's a
what
ride.
song do you recommend?
Anything by the great Papa D. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm being honest though.
Oh yeah, you are doing that. You are doing that, but it's
No,
good.
no, no,
He
no. If I
deserves it.
was no, but what I was gonna say is I've listened to a fair amount. I haven't even scratched the surface though, and this might make me
There you go.
this might make me
You
sound
gotta do
lame.
this properly,
No, no, this might
and it's
make
gonna
this
happen. Look at that. Oh, I got the hearts.
I think it only works for you, buddy, but it might sound a little bit lame, but I can't remember if it was before or after. I think it was after our interview, but I was listening to more of your music, and a while back my cat got very, very sick. And for those of you who don't know, my animals are like my I like animals more than people most of the time. So, and I rescued this little guy from a hoarding situation, and he got very sick very suddenly. So I'm sitting at the emergency vet thinking, oh my God, I'm basically going to be told my cat's dying, basically, which I was, but I'm sitting in the lobby and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. So I open up Spotify, and right there, because I was listening to it prior, was music by Pappa D. And I cannot remember, I think it was some of your waltzes. And I listened to them, and it didn't necessarily like take everything away, but I think it made me feel just a little bit more like calm and able to deal with it. Turns out my cat was dying, but we took him to a vet that actually knew what the fuck they were talking about, and he's doing fine now. But yeah, your music is like I said earlier, in a way, for because I know you do some music with lyrics, but what I'm talking about was, like I said, some of your waltzes. It's hard to put into words. You honestly just have to listen to it for yourself, but you'll enjoy it. You'll like it. And links are in the description, by the way, for you to
Wow,
check
thank you,
everything out.
Jake. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. And I'm sorry about the cat. Is he okay now?
Oh, he's fine. He actually has feline AIDS. That was the issue. So he has a compromised immune system, and he got an infection, and then then he had some sort of infection in his blood. So there were months and months of medication and close calls, but he's off his medication now. He's been off of it for a couple weeks, and he's still eating, still active, so he seems to be doing okay for now.
Good,
That's nice. Can I
good.
say something before you say something, Papa D? No matter
Hmm.
how much you praise him, you're not going to our Miami Vice night, okay, Jake? You're not invited, bro.
I wouldn't
Doesn't matter
think
how good
I
you talk.
wouldn't I wouldn't think to intrude on your Miami Vice night.
You can. Go ahead, Papa D. Sorry.
That's funny. This is a song that my wife showed me once I came back from the tour, and she picked me up and she's like, "Hey, like check out the stuff I've been checking out and listening while you were gone." And she played me this song called "Mr. Man" by a band called Air. And in order to find that, that's like a very deep cut B-side, one hit wonder band. It's you have to literally type Mr. Man Air. It's not even gonna appear if you just type Air, because Air is another band, and but it's just this beautiful 70s funk jazz song with her voice is ethereal and crisp, and you think that um, it's gonna break. You're like, how is she hitting those notes? And there's a beautiful trumpet solo, and very beautiful Fender Rhodes just playing the on the background, and it's an incredible song, and I think it's a combination of something I've been listening lately and randomly how I discovered it and how random this band is, and there's no way I would have found them if it hadn't been for Taylor. So yeah, that's my song. I really like it. I listen to a lot of my records actually, like a lot of like the vinyls that I have, because that's my collection. If everybody has one collection, some people collect, alcohol bottles and some other stamps and cassettes. I have vinyls, and I play something, always something new. And when I go on Spotify, I go on the radio of a song that I like, and then I discover new artists. And I try to be very intentional about it, and listen to new music every day, constantly filtering. I'm listening all day, everything. I'm listening
Nice.
to everything. But yeah,
Well,
Mr. Man by Air.
I recommend you a band called Again and Forever. But when let's talk about that. That's my band. My recommendation is 2004 Latin Grammys Best Album of the Year and Best Song of the Year. by Robbie Draco Rosa. The name of the album is Mad Love. Robbie Draco, he knows how to go from pop to whatever I want to do in his career. Uh, People will know him around the world because he's the actually writer from Living La Vida Loca, performed by his best friend Ricky Martin. But
Oh yeah.
that original song is super deep and it's about heroin.
Which
So
album?
the Mad Love, for me, Mad Love is one of the best albums that he ever created. Um,
2001. Okay.
2001, yeah, okay, so something around that. But Mad Love, they did it in Spanish and in English, so you can enjoy the different feelings when he's performing. He's an amazing pianist, an amazing composer, multiple Latin Grammys, and I got the chance once to, we just talked once to my manager because we were gonna do a song together, but then the deal didn't work to the record label, and I was like, oh, so I really wanted to work with the guy. But he's amazing. He just released a dead thrash metal album, and his previous album was pop, and the one before was, he's creating uh ritual music. The guy's out of the place, and I love his art. But I highly recommend Mad Love by Robbie Draco Rosa. You can find it in anywhere in all the platforms. Pappa D, thank you so much to take us into this journey to know the real Pappa D, to get to know the why and the how you became what you are right now. Again, I want to congratulate you and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for being so thorough and asking all these things, stuff that I haven't even thought for years. I haven't even taken myself in those places, and you took me there. So thank you for that, both of you.
Thank you. Jake, thank you for being quiet this whole podcast. We really appreciate your silence. We love you. I know you love you, buddy. You told me correctly. He told me, Papa D is coming. You're going to meet with him because you're the specialist in music. You build this, brother. So thank you, Jake. You're amazing. Thank you for uh, all these platforms. Thank you for all the audience. Follow Papa D in all the platforms. Follow, like, and share our podcast. And thank you, Jake. Thank you, Papa D. Virus out. Peace out, everyone.